Hello, friend. It is time to let go of all the burdens of the day. Let your body sink deep into the soft comfort of your bed. Tonight, we will listen together to the story of Buddhist teachings on trust and letting go. Close your eyes, inhale deeply, and exhale slowly. Do not try to think, just relax. The gentle invitation. Welcome to Lotus Whisper, the quiet sanctuary where stories become rest. Tonight, we begin a deep journey into the two gentle pillars of the awakened life, trust and letting go. These are not abstract concepts, but the very breath of peace. They are the twin currents that carry us away from the turbulent shore of worry and out into the vast, calm sea of the present moment. The world often demands that we grip tightly to plans, to outcomes, to control. But the ancient wisdom of the Buddha whispers a different truth, that the deepest security is found not in holding on, but in the profound, courageous act of release. We will explore how to cultivate an unshakable trust in the flow of life and how to perform the ultimate act of self-care, letting go of the unnecessary weights we carry. As we begin, feel the stillness around you. Feel the simple, steady rhythm of your breathing. This moment, right here, right now, is safe. This moment is all we ever truly have. Allow the sounds of your day to fade away, like ripples smoothing out on a calm pond. Let the story be the gentle anchor for your mind, allowing the body to surrender completely to the earth beneath you. Now, take one more deep, cleansing breath. Inhale calm. Exhale all that is done. If these stories bring a quiet peace to your heart, please subscribe to the Lotus Whisper channel so that more gentle wisdom can find its way to you when the night calls. Part 1. The burden we choose to carry. We begin our journey tonight with a truth so simple, yet so often forgotten. The most painful burdens we carry are those we choose not to put down. This truth is not merely a philosophical statement. It is a direct invitation to examine the invisible chains that bind our minds and tighten our chests. It challenges us to look closely at what we are clinging to in the silent chambers of our inner lives. The freedom we seek is not found in acquiring something new, but in releasing what is already draining us. Imagine, if you will, the narrow, winding dirt path leading up to a great mountain monastery. The ascent is rarely easy. The path is often stony and steep, carved between ancient, silent pine trees whose needles scent the cool, thin air. It is a path of discipline, solitude, and unwavering focus. On this path, walking in quiet single file, were two Zen monks, the senior master named Tanzan and his younger, more anxious companion, Aikido. The contrast between the two was not only in age, but in the very core of their practice. Tanzan embodied effortless presence, while Aikido was defined by anxious adherence. The walk and the cultivated silence. It had been a long, dusty walk. The sun was beginning to dip behind the jagged peaks, casting long purple shadows that made the forest feel profound and mysteriously ancient. The light was fading fast, shifting from the golden hue of late afternoon to the cool, deep blue-gray of twilight. The monks walked in the deep silence that only long practice can create, a silence not empty but profoundly full. It contained the sound of the wind sighing through the pines, the sharp crunch of gravel under their simple straw sandals, and the gentle, even rhythm of their own disciplined breath. This silence was their achievement, a testament to the mind's ability to be still, unswayed by the world's clamor. For Tanzan, it was a natural state, a continuous flow of effortless awareness. For Aikido, it was a constant effort, a goal he strived to maintain, and the fear of breaking it was always subtly present. He was perpetually trying to be silent, which is the antithesis of simply being silent. Suddenly, the path opened out near the edge of a small rustic village. The monks approached a fast-flowing muddy river that had swelled dramatically from the heavy recent spring rains. The water was high, powerful, and intimidating. They paused momentarily, preparing for the careful, strenuous process of wading across. The unforeseen obstacle. Standing near the crossing point was a young woman. She was strikingly beautiful, dressed in fine, costly silk robes, clearly a member of a wealthy family. Her demeanor was one of utter distress and helplessness. The river current was too strong, the water too high and too swift for her to cross, without not only ruining her expensive attire, but, more dangerously, risking being swept away by the churning flood. She looked worried, frustrated, and entirely out of her element. It is crucial to understand the context here. The rules of the monk's order were incredibly strict. They were explicitly forbidden to touch or even speak directly with women, for fear of attachment, distraction, or scandal. This boundary was a non-negotiable part of the Vinaya, the ancient dictates governing monastic conduct. This was the form of the rule, considered an absolute spiritual guardrail. Aikido, the younger monk, stopped instantly, his face a mask of intense internal conflict. His mind was racing, frantically sifting through the precepts, the rules, and the millennia-old decrees. He was calculating the spiritual danger of the situation, the clear violation, the possible censure from his master. He was so consumed by this fierce internal debate, the battle between the letter of the law and the call of the moment, that he barely registered what happened next. His mind had transformed the simple sight into an immediate spiritual crisis, the act of effortless compassion. Tanzan, the elder monk, did not hesitate. He did not speak, did not question, and did not rationalize the situation. He simply walked straight up to the woman. He looked at her not with judgment or conflict, but with simple, profound kindness, saw her predicament, and acted from a place of immediate, clear intention. He bypassed the form of the law to uphold the spirit of the Dharma, compassion in action. He bent down slightly, gently lifted the woman into his strong, practiced arms, and carried her effortlessly across the rushing, freezing cold river. His movement was fluid, decisive, and pure. It was not a performative act of kindness, but a simple, natural response flowing from a mind unburdened by self-consciousness or adherence to rigid mental constructs. He set her down safely on the far bank, offered a simple, quiet smile that acknowledged her relief, and then continued walking. The woman bowed deeply in gratitude, but Tanzan was already moving on, his silence and his presence completely unbroken. For him, the moment was complete, done, and immediately released. Aikido's invisible cargo. Aikido, however, was utterly scandalized. He was aghast, shaken to his core, yet his profound respect for his teacher prevented him from speaking immediately. He hurried to catch up to Tanzan, and they continued their journey toward the monastery. But the peace of his silent practice was shattered entirely. His mind, once so diligently cultivated, was now a violent tempest of righteous judgment and spiritual anxiety. He could not focus on the path. He could not feel the cool evening air. He could not hear the peaceful sound of the crickets beginning their nightly chorus. All he could hear was the deafening clamor of his own mind, replaying the scene with feverish intensity. He touched her. He broke the rule. How can a master do such a thing? What an offense to the purity of our sacred path. He struggled like this for several painful hours, crossing several more miles of steep, unforgiving terrain. His steps became heavy and labored, his face drawn tight with the invisible burden.
The spiritual weight he was creating was exponentially heavier than any physical load. He was carrying the woman too, not in his arms, but in his judgmental, clinging mind. He was carrying Tanzan's supposed mistake, carrying his own moral outrage, and carrying the agonizing weight of an unspoken, unresolved question. Aikido's clinging was not to the woman, but to the idea of the rule, to the concept of spiritual purity, and to his own rightness in judgment. This attachment to an ideal was his greatest obstacle. The external act had passed. The internal conflict raged on. The profound release. Finally, as they neared the monastery gate, the burden became unbearable. Aikido stopped, and, with a voice tight with frustration and sheer spiritual anxiety, he confronted Tanzan. "Master," he began, struggling to keep the accusation and anger out of his tone. "We are monks. We are forbidden to approach or touch women. Why did you carry that young woman across the river? It was a clear violation of our most sacred rule." Tanzan stopped his easy stride. He turned and looked at Aikido, his face a picture of absolute calm, his eyes twinkling with a gentle, profound light. He regarded his student for a long, still moment, a moment so deep that the only sound was the flutter of a moth's wings in the gathering darkness, emphasizing the vast chasm between their states of mind. Then, Tanzan replied, in a voice as clear and gentle as a distant bell chime. "I put her down hours ago, Aikido. Are you still carrying her? Let that profound question settle deep into your own tired mind. I put her down hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" The essence of letting go. In this single simple tale lies the whole essence of freedom and the practice of letting go. The physical act of carrying the woman was a brief, momentary gesture of pure compassion for Tanzan. Once the act was done, it was truly and utterly finished. He put her down, and his mind was immediately free to return to the path, to the present moment, to the quiet, unattached awareness that defines the monastic life. The river, the woman, the act, the rule, all were gone from his awareness. But Aikido, the monk who had never physically touched the woman, had become desperately entangled. He was carrying the heavy, agonizing mental story of the event, the judgment, the outrage, the moral dilemma, the personal conflict. He had traded a fleeting external act of kindness for hours of self-inflicted spiritual torment. He had taken a quick external event and allowed it to solidify into a heavy internal object, which he then dragged behind him like a great, useless stone ballast that prevented his spirit from soaring. This mechanism illustrates the nature of suffering. Suffering is rarely the event itself. It is our attachment to the story we tell ourselves about the event. It is the refusal to put down the mental baggage. Your current inventory of burdens. Think now, as you settle into the quiet of your space, sinking deeper into your pillow, about the burdens you are still carrying from the day, the week, or the years gone by. Are you still carrying the harsh word or the critique spoken by a colleague this afternoon? Put it down. That word is merely sound, dissolved into the air. Are you still carrying the heavy anxiety about a hypothetical conversation you might have tomorrow? Put it down. That future does not yet exist. It is only a script playing inside your mind. Are you still carrying the mental replay of a mistake you made last week, a mistake that cannot be undone and from which you can only learn? Put it down. Self-recrimination is not penance. Learning and changing are. Are you carrying the crushing weight of expectations others have placed upon you? Or perhaps the even heavier, impossible expectations you have placed upon yourself. Put them down. You do not need to be a perfect imaginary version of yourself. You only need to be fully present right now. These burdens, these mental objects, they are no longer real events. They are simply thought forms, shadows of the past, or fearful projections onto a non-existent future. They possess no more substance than the mist rising off the cold river water. Yet we clutch them, we feed them with our precious attention, and they become the immovable rocks that prevent us from floating gently toward the quiet harbor of sleep and peace. Aikido was striving to be a perfect monk, obsessed with the form of the rules. Tanzan, the true master, was living from the essence of the Dharma, unattached compassion. Tanzan trusted the moment, acted from a place of clear intention, and instantly let go of the act when it was complete. He understood that purity is not about avoidance. It is about the non-clinging of the mind. A gentle invitation to release. Let us practice this gentle release now. With every outward breath, imagine that you are physically placing one of your most persistent mental burdens gently onto the ground beside your bed. It does not need to be analyzed, fixed, or solved right now. It simply needs to be released. Put it down as Tanzan did, decisively and completely. Letting go is not indifference or forgetfulness. It is the refusal to carry what no longer serves your peace and your presence. It is the courageous act of recognizing that you are not your thoughts, and you have the power to choose not to be dominated by them. Inhale the simple awareness of your burden. Exhale and put it down, feeling the space and lightness that takes its place. Feel the muscles around your eyes begin to soften. Feel the tightness in your shoulders ease, as if the straps of an imaginary, heavy backpack have finally been unfastened. You are safe. You are warm. The day is done, and there is nothing required of you but to allow yourself rest. The river has been crossed. The woman is long gone. There is only the quiet certainty of your own heart beating, a steady, simple rhythm of being. Put it down. Put it all down. The lightness you feel right now is your true nature, unclouded by the burdens you unknowingly picked up along the way. Let this lightness guide you into deep rest, and make a commitment to yourself that, like Tanzan, you will learn to live each moment with compassion and, immediately afterward, with complete liberation. You have crossed the river of your day. Now release the stories, the judgments, and the worn-out fears. Tanzan put her down. You can put your story down. Putting down the oars, the art of effortless trust. Now that we have gently practiced putting down the burdens of the past, the memories, the judgments, and the anxieties we choose to carry, as demonstrated by the monks Tanzan and Aikido, let us turn our attention to the second core teaching tonight: trust. Specifically, the profound trust in non-striving or effortless effort. This is the ancient, subtle art of putting down the oars. This principle moves us beyond mere release from the past and into active participation with the present moment. A participation characterized by grace rather than struggle.
It shifts our focus from what we must do to what we must allow. Imagine you are in a small, solitary wooden boat. For countless hours, perhaps all day long, you have been rowing fiercely, desperately. Every muscle in your body, in your arms, back, and shoulders is tight, screaming from the relentless grinding effort. Your palms are raw and stinging from gripping the rough wood of the oars. You are utterly exhausted, physically depleted, and spiritually worn. Perhaps you are rowing against a visible strong headwind, the unyielding demands of a difficult boss, a tense and unresolved family situation, the unrelenting pressure of financial stress, or the relentless ticking of a clock that seems to speed up the older we get. Or perhaps, and often more insidiously, you are rowing against a current you couldn't even see, the subtle, pervasive current of anxiety, of deep-seated self-doubt, of the persistent, nagging thought that you should be doing more, achieving more, accumulating more, or simply being more than you are right now. This is the exhaustion of the inner critic demanding constant production. You look up, squinting through the fading light, and the destination you were so frantically aiming for seems no closer, perhaps even farther than when you first started your furious paddling. This frantic energy is, tragically, how many of us approach life. It is how we often approach our spiritual practice, attempting to force enlightenment. It is how we approach simple acts like trying to fall asleep, trying to make the mind quiet. We try to force the future to happen according to our precise, narrow schedule. We try to demand that the body relax through sheer will. But Zen wisdom, and the wisdom of countless spiritual traditions, teaches us a fundamental truth. Peace, like true awakening, cannot be forced. It is not an outcome to be achieved through relentless, white-knuckle effort, but a state to be uncovered through profound, simple trust. The metaphor of the great river. Consider the analogy of the great, vast river. The river itself represents the flow of life, the natural order, the dharma, the unstoppable, ancient movement of all things, the interconnected network of cause and condition. When we strive too hard, when we grip those oars tightly and paddle furiously against the flow, we are doing more than just expending energy. We are making a fundamental declaration. We are declaring that we do not trust the river. We are declaring that we believe our tiny, isolated will, our ego's limited perspective, is stronger and wiser than the vast, ancient, and impersonal current of life itself. We mistake the ability to struggle for the ability to control. When we cling desperately to control, we are clinging to the profound illusion that we can dictate where the river must go and how quickly it must arrive. But the river does not require our permission to flow. It flows with an inevitable, silent power, whether we paddle with we exhausted desperation, or whether we simply allow ourselves to float. The act of letting go in this context, therefore, means letting go of the need for absolute control. It means trusting the current. It is a decision to surrender the small individual effort to the great universal movement. The moment of release. Imagine this moment now in your own quiet space. Take one hand off the oar. Feel the phantom weight of the wood, the imaginary resistance of the water you have been fighting. Now, place that tired hand gently in your lap, or let it rest softly by your side. Acknowledge the relief in the muscles of that arm. Now, take the second hand off the oar. Allow the oars to drift, not thrown away violently in a gesture of angry defeat, but simply released, surrendered, floating gently beside the boat,
now tethered only by a loose rope of acceptance. Feel the immediate, visceral shift. The boat is no longer moving primarily by the chaotic, desperate effort of your tiny will. It is moving by the natural, effortless, and powerful flow of the water beneath it. The external environment, which you were fighting, now becomes your silent ally. For a brief, immediate moment, there might be a sudden flash of panic. If I stop rowing, what will happen? The anxious mind screams. I might drift off course. I might be carried somewhere unexpected. I must keep control. This fear is the sound of the anxious ego fighting against the deepest form of spiritual trust. The Zen master, seeing this fear, might calmly ask you, what is on course anyway? Who charted this river that you are so afraid of leaving? And can you truly be off course if you are simply where the universal current, the culmination of all causes and conditions, is taking you right now? Trust in this profound sense is the quiet, deep confidence that the flow of existence, the vast, interconnected network of all things, is carrying you exactly where you need to go next. Not necessarily where your small, planning, demanding ego wants to go, but where your deepest wisdom, your true life's unfolding, requires you to be. It is the recognition that the present moment is always the perfect teacher. The stillness reveals movement, wu-wei. The moment you put down the oars, the exhausting, self-imposed effort stops. And in that powerful stillness, something profound happens. You finally feel the boat moving. When we are rowing, the tension and struggle are so intense that we only feel the friction and the strain, not the actual underlying movement. We are too busy fighting the river to realize that we are, in fact, already part of it. When we stop striving, when we trust the vast intelligence of the universe, we realize that the universe has been moving us, guiding our path, supporting our journey all along. The exhaustion was self-generated, not a requirement of the journey. This realization is the true meaning behind the Eastern concept of wu-wei, or effortless action. It is not laziness, apathy, or giving up. It is action aligned perfectly with the natural flow. The flexible bamboo bends deeply in the tropical storm. It does not fight the wind with rigid effort, and thus it does not break. The rising wave crests and returns inevitably to the sea. It does not fight the pull of gravity or its natural composition. In both cases, the effortless movement sustains its existence. As you lie there now, feel your body deeply and unconditionally supported by the bed. The bed is your small boat. The floor beneath it is the great river. The earth itself is the underlying unstoppable current. You do not need to actively hold yourself up. You do not need to mentally maintain your existence. This very moment, this space, this earth is supporting you entirely. Trust this. Let the striving go. Let the rigid, anxious need to solve tomorrow's complex problems tonight dissolve completely. Let the anxious mental planner, the micromanager of your existence, clock out for the evening. Give it permission to rest. Practical release, the body's surrender. This is a subtle yet deeply powerful practice of surrender. You are not trying to relax. You are simply allowing the deep, natural state of relaxation to reveal itself when the effort to not relax finally ceases. The boat of your being naturally finds rest when the rowing stops. Feel the jaw softening. You have likely held tension there all day, a subtle clenching, as if ready to speak a quick defense, bite back a sharp thought, or brace against bad news. Release it now. Let the teeth gently part. Feel the eyes settle heavily into their sockets. Stop the subtle, internal effort of the eyes searching for the next problem, the next distraction, the next source of light. Let them rest fully, deep within the protective shelter of the bone. Feel the heart rate steady and deepen. Trust that this miraculous organ, which has served you since before your birth, knows exactly what to do without your frantic mental micromanagement. It beats with its own profound, ancient rhythm, a rhythm connected to the greater, universal rhythm of all life. Trust its ancient wisdom. This deep trust is the spiritual equivalent of placing yourself entirely into the arms of the current. You are saying to the universe, and most importantly, to your own life, I have done what I could today. Now, I release the outcome. I release the struggle. I will simply float. The true Zen monk, when walking the mountainous path, does not strive to reach the destination with strained effort. He simply places one foot in front of the other, trusting the ground beneath him to be solid, trusting the body's knowledge of movement to be sufficient, and trusting the simplicity of the moment to be complete. The destination will arrive precisely when the requisite steps have been taken. The destination is merely the natural consequence of the walking, not the object of the striving. Tonight, let the simple act of breathing become your quiet, effortless movement.
You do not make the breath come in. You allow it to be drawn in by the deep, restful needs of your body. You do not force the breath out. You permit it to sigh away all tension and exhaustion in a natural, organic release. Let go of the oars. The river is carrying you. There is nothing left to do now but float. The empty bowl of expectation. We deepen our rest now by exploring the profound relationship between the practice of letting go and the Buddhist concept of emptiness, or shunyata. But we approach this tonight not through abstract philosophy or dry academic discourse, but through the simple, immediate, and comforting analogy of the bowl and the powerful, self-imposed burden of expectation. This concept is the key to unlocking the final layer of peace before sleep. Expectation is the way the mind compulsively tries to fill the future before the future has actually arrived. It is the rigid, fixed idea, the inflexible mental blueprint of how things must be, how people must behave, how our body must feel, or how our personal life story must unfold. We create a narrow script and then demand that the boundless, fluid reality conform to our tiny vision. Every single time reality diverges from this rigid, fixed picture, which it always does because reality is vast, boundless, and constantly changing, we suffer. This suffering comes not from the event itself, but from the violent shattering of the expectation we were clinging to. We find a beautiful and timeless reflection on this essential idea in an old, simple folk story, a tale often shared in the quiet communities surrounding the Zen temples of China. This narrative speaks volumes about the wisdom of letting go of fixed judgment, releasing the need to label, and trusting the ever-changing, unpredictable nature of life's flow. The farmer's uncanny detachment. The story centers on a poor but profoundly content farmer who lived a simple life with his only son. The farmer was known throughout his small village not for wealth or prowess, but for his almost uncanny, unshakable calm and quiet detachment. He never seemed overly elated or wildly happy about apparent good fortune, nor was he ever terribly distressed or consumed by what others labeled as bad luck. His mind seemed to operate outside the dualistic binary judgment system of the rest of the world. One cool, crisp morning, the farmer's only horse,
a sturdy, faithful animal that was absolutely essential for working the small, demanding rice fields, managed to bolt from its paddock. The horse ran away deep into the unpopulated, distant hills. For the farmer, this was a crippling loss of capital and labor. The villagers gathered that evening, their faces etched with concern, wringing their hands, offering their loudest sympathies. "Oh, this is terrible, farmer," they lamented, their voices heavy with immediate, fixed judgment. "What awful, cruel luck! Your livelihood, your very survival depends on that horse. How will you work the fields now?" The farmer was calmly stirring his simple evening meal over the fire. He looked out at the darkening, distant hills where the horse had vanished. He smiled softly, a quiet acknowledgement of their concern, and simply shrugged his shoulders, placing the event outside the realm of final judgment. Bad luck? Good luck? Who knows? He simply replied. The villagers instantly thought he was in deep denial, perhaps a little simple-minded. They shook their heads at his seeming passivity and left, certain they knew the definitive truth of the situation. A week later, the seemingly lost horse returned. But it had not come back alone. While roaming the hills, it had fallen in with a herd of 12 magnificent, powerful wild stallions. And when the original horse found its way back to the farm, the entire herd of wild horses docilely followed it into the farmer's small paddock. Suddenly, overnight, the poor farmer had a vast, incredibly valuable herd. His wealth, or at least his potential wealth, had multiplied exponentially. The villagers returned, their previous judgment instantly forgotten, now ecstatic and loud with their new, fixed conclusion. "Oh, farmer, what amazing, unexpected fortune! You are rich now! This is truly the greatest of good luck," they cheered, validating their own previous judgment error with a new, equally rigid one. The farmer went about the quiet business of repairing his fence to hold the new herd. He looked at the beautiful, powerful new horses and smiled his quiet, knowing smile. He refused to let the apparent fortune set his mind in stone. Good luck? Bad luck? Who knows? He said, just as calmly and detachedly as before. He was demonstrating that every seemingly positive event is merely a point on an infinite, flowing continuum. The villagers again thought he was strange, overly cautious, but they intensely envied his sudden, great wealth. The very next day, the farmer's only son, a strong, promising young man, was attempting to fulfill his role by training one of the powerful, completely unbroken wild stallions. The horse, still wild, reared up violently and unexpectedly, throwing the son with tremendous force to the hard ground. The son's leg was badly broken in 2 separate places. It was a severe, compound injury that would leave him crippled and incapacitated, at least for a season, and completely unable to help with the heavy, essential farm work. The villagers rushed back, deeply and genuinely concerned this time, certain that the cosmic ledger had swung back to disaster. "Oh, farmer, this is tragic. Now you have a lame son, and no one to help you work the land. This is truly the worst of luck," they cried, affixing their definitive, final label to the event. The farmer was nursing his son, wrapping the splints gently and carefully. He looked at his son's pale, pain-etched face, then at the villagers. He let out a slow, intentional breath, releasing the tension that their judgments might bring. "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" he whispered, his peace remaining undisturbed by the trauma. "The ultimate unfolding.
Just a few short weeks later, the emperor's army marched aggressively and unexpectedly through the village. A brutal, sweeping, and devastating war had suddenly erupted far in the north, and the emperor needed every single able-bodied young man to be immediately conscripted into the infantry, essentially a death sentence. The ruthless army officers grabbed every healthy young man they saw, regardless of family ties or need. They came directly to the farmer's house, saw the son with his terribly broken, freshly splinted leg, and simply shook their heads with professional disinterest. They passed him by without a second glance. The rest of the village's strong young men were marched away, destined for almost certain death in the harsh north. The farmer's son was safe at home, alive, spared from the unspeakable horror of war because of the very thing, the broken leg, that they had all so confidently labeled as the worst of luck. The villagers came one last humbling time, their voices quiet with awe and self-correction. "Farmer," they said, their certainty finally broken. "You were right all along. It was the best possible luck. The broken leg, the tragedy, saved your son's life from the war." The farmer was simply sitting on his porch watching the golden sunlight fade into twilight. He looked at them with an infinite gentleness, acknowledging the truth of their statement in that moment, but maintaining his quiet, profound wisdom. "Good luck? Bad luck? Who knows?" he said one final, echoing time. The freedom of the empty bowl. This profound, simple story is the quiet, powerful echo of letting go of expectation. Every twist of fate that seemed clearly, definitively good, carried within it the seed of what might be catastrophic. Every twist that seemed clearly, absolutely bad, carried within it the seed of unexpected, ultimate goodness. The farmer's profound, unshakable peace and detachment came from his foundational realization that the future is, fundamentally, an empty bowl. He stubbornly refused to fill it with the fixed, rigid certainty of his judgment. He refused to cling to a narrow, fixed idea of what was definitively beneficial and what was definitively detrimental. He simply let the contents of the bowl change, moment by moment, without attachment to the label. Think now about the empty bowl of your life as you prepare for the deep silence of sleep. When we are worried, our minds are desperately trying to fill the bowl of tomorrow with a fixed, rigid image of what must happen. I must succeed. This chronic problem must be solved perfectly. My body must feel instantly better. Everything must be exactly as I meticulously planned. This desperate, compulsive filling of the empty bowl with fixed certainty is the very tension we feel vibrating throughout our mind and body. But when we courageously let go of that fixed, tyrannical expectation, we instantly discover the immense, liberating freedom of possibility. To truly trust is to possess the quiet, inner knowledge that the loss of the horse may inevitably lead to the gain of a herd, and the tragedy of a broken leg may lead to the saving of a life. The universe does not operate on our small, predictable, binary, two-dimensional scale of good or bad. It operates on the vast, mysterious, multidimensional, interconnected flow of cause and effect, an infinitely complex tapestry that we can never fully comprehend in the moment. Tonight, let go of the fixed expectations you have for your own body. your sleep performance, your partner, your job, and your future. Stop expecting the past to predict the future. The empty bowl of tomorrow has no memory of the past. Stop expecting your efforts to instantly yield results. The river takes its own time to carve the canyon. Stop expecting your mind to be perfectly silent just because you demand it to be. Expectation is the noise. Release is the silence. Instead, let your mind become like the farmer, simple, quiet, observant, and deeply trusting the entire intricate process. The flow of events is far too vast, too intricate, too deeply interconnected for your small, ego-driven mind to judge or label it definitively in the moment. Release the oars of expectation. Embrace the deep, profound, restful freedom of not knowing. The empty bowl is not a lack. It is, in fact, the ultimate potential. It can be filled with anything, including the deepest, most quiet, most restorative sleep you have been craving. Allow the emptiness of the unknown to wash over and soothe you. You are held by a mystery greater than your plans, greater than your judgments, and greater than your expectations. Let go of the rigid picture. Trust the flow. Tuyệt vời! Dưới đây là phiên bản mở rộng của phần 4, The Koan of the Hanging Man, được điều chỉnh để đạt đủ $1.500 từ, đồng thời giữ nguyên nội dung, văn phong và thông điệp Zen sâu sắc. The Koan of the Hanging Man, Trusting the Fall. We move now to a core teaching of Zen Buddhism, a moment of ultimate, visceral confrontation with the concept of letting go, beautifully and harshly captured in a famous stark koan. A koan is a short, paradoxical statement or story designed not to be solved logically. It resists all intellectual attempts to dissect or categorize it, but to be entered into deeply, breaking the mind's rigid habits of thought and forcing a moment of immediate, profound, and often shocking release. It is a spiritual battering ram designed to shatter the ego's fortress of certainty. The story centers on the scholar named Kyo, a man who had dedicated his entire adult life to the pursuit of knowledge. He had successfully mastered the entire Buddhist canon. His mind was a fortress constructed of countless scrolls and commentaries, but his heart still felt separate from true peace. His intellect had made him knowledgeable, but his knowledge had failed to make him wise. Kyo finally sought out a revered Zen master, asking for the deepest, most essential instruction that would transcend his vast book learning. The master, a man of simple action and profound insight, knowing Kyo's tendency to hide his fear and spiritual hesitancy behind his formidable intellect, did not give him a scroll or a tedious lecture. Instead, he presented Kyo with a fierce, deeply disturbing, and unforgettable image. The master began, his voice low, serious, and utterly compelling. Imagine a man who is hanging from a great 1,000-foot-high tree branch. He is not held by the strength of his hands or the grip of his fingers, which are useless and dangling. Instead, he is suspended entirely by the desperate strength of his teeth, which are clamped firmly onto the branch. His entire existence is held in the frantic, exhausting grip of his jaw.
The impossible dilemma and the scholar's burden. The master continued to paint the scene of ultimate distress. His hands are dangling far beneath him. His feet are kicking uselessly in the vast empty space high above the ground. There is absolutely no way up to safety or down to solid ground. His entire existence, his very life, is held in the desperate, grinding effort of his jaw muscles. Now, the master paused, letting the fear settle and allowing the image to truly take root in Kyo's mind. Another person, a seeker, perhaps a priest or a fool, approaches and stands directly beneath the tree. This person looks up at the man hanging by his teeth and asks the ultimate, fundamental questions. What is the meaning of Zen? What is the purpose of your life? Give me the single truth. The dilemma is now perfectly forged. The master looked directly at Kyo. If the man opens his mouth to answer, he will instantly lose his grip. He will fall, and he will certainly die. If he does not open his mouth, he fails to answer the question. He withholds the truth. And what good is all his accumulated wisdom, all his mastery of the canons, if he cannot deliver it at the crucial moment? Tell me, Kyo, what should the man do? Let the terrible, beautiful image settle deep into your awareness. The desperation, the sheer exhaustion, the absolute, impossible dilemma. This koan is not merely about a fictional man clinging to a branch. It is a perfect, chilling portrait of the anxious human condition, particularly when we are unable to surrender to sleep or peace. It mirrors the plight of the scholar Kyo himself, trapped by his own learning, unable to speak the truth because the truth requires the sacrifice of the very thing he is clinging to, his intellectual identity. The metaphor of the teeth, clinging to the ego. We are that man. We are hanging by our teeth over the void of the unknown. The crucial question becomes, what are our spiritual teeth clamped onto in our own lives right now? They are clamped onto the branch of our self-constructed identity. We are holding on to the rigid label of successful person, or responsible parent, or struggling artist. They are clamped onto the rigid story we tell ourselves about our past failures and our future needs. A narrative of self-importance that demands constant attention. They are clamped onto the illusion of control, the fixed idea of what we must accomplish to be worthy of rest. They are clamped onto the anxious worry that refuses to leave the mind, a worry that paradoxically feels safer than the void of not caring. We are desperately hanging on to the fixed idea of who we are, what we must prove, and the terrifying fear of letting go of that established identity. The profound fear of falling into the terrifying yet liberating void of the unknown that underlies every moment. Our mind, which is supposed to be free and open like the limitless sky, is instead gripped in a fierce, silent, exhaustive tension. It is holding on to the branch of the past and the future simultaneously, demanding that it, the ego, the planner, the self-critic, be the one firmly in charge of existence. This demanding mental posture consumes all our available energy, leaving us utterly exhausted but unable to surrender. This exhaustion of the grip is the true enemy of rest. The master's question, "What is the meaning of Zen?" is the ultimate existential demand. It is the moment where life demands a genuine, authentic answer, not an intellectual one borrowed from a book, not a clever phrase or a philosophical evasion, but a truth that comes from the very core of your being, your life lived. The inevitable release and trusting the fall. If the hanging man speaks, if he chooses to release the desperate grip of his teeth, he is choosing to let go of his perceived life, his perceived safety, his illusion of control. That moment of release is a total, irrevocable surrender. It is the immediate end of the effort, the end of the struggle, and the plunge into the freedom of the unknown. This is the very essence of the deepest spiritual trust, trusting the fall. It is the recognition that the branch, though familiar, is the source of the suffering, and the fall, though terrifying, is the only path to peace. We spend our entire lives terrified of falling. We build mental walls, spiritual safety nets, financial defenses, and emotional boundaries, all fundamentally designed to prevent that ultimate, feared fall into loss or uncertainty. But the Zen masters tell us that the only way to be truly, fundamentally free is to realize that you are already falling, that every moment is a descent toward the unknown, and that the only real danger is the sheer, compounding exhaustion of the futile, muscular grip. Imagine the sheer fatigue of those jaw muscles, the tension radiating up the neck, across the temples, and into the shoulders, the desperate, grinding effort to simply maintain the status quo, to keep things exactly as they are against the force of gravity. That fatigue is precisely the exhaustion you feel tonight when you cannot sleep. The deep exhaustion of the mind still desperately clinging to the branch of worry, trying to prevent the inevitable release into the void of deep rest, which feels, to the controlling ego, like a small, temporary death of control. The answer to the koan is not a clever word, not a silent gesture. The answer is the action of letting go. The ultimate truth of Zen is found in the instant the man releases his teeth, choosing to trust the fall, choosing to let go of the rigid life he knows for the boundless life he might find in the very next moment of surrender. He understands that the grip is the lie, and the fall is the ultimate, paradoxical truth. The final surrender, from grip to rest. As you lie in the gentle darkness, feel the desperate clenching in your own body and mind. This clenching is the lingering effort from the day, the phantom grip on the branch. Where are you holding on with your spiritual teeth tonight? To that replay of the argument? Release. To that heavy financial fear? Release. To the rigid image of yourself as someone who should be doing better, achieving more, or being more awake? Release. To the memory of the mistake you made at work? Release. To the need to control the outcome of the meeting next week? Release. This ultimate moment of letting go is not passive resignation. It is, in a spiritual sense, the single most active, most courageous thing you can possibly do. It is saying, I have done my absolute best to manage, plan, and control today. Now, I surrender the outcome to the larger current of life, to the deep wisdom of the universe. It is a declaration of trust in something greater than your small, striving self. In the koan, there is a subtle, beautiful, paradoxical truth. When the man lets go, he falls. But the master has framed the dilemma so perfectly that the only way to truly answer the question, the only way to live the spiritual truth, is to be willing to die to the grip, The knowledge he possesses is useless unless he is willing to risk losing it entirely. True wisdom is demonstrated not by what you can hold on to, but by what you are willing to release. Let the terrifying image of the falling man now become an image of deep, peaceful surrender. He is not falling to a jagged, punishing ground. He is falling into the soft, infinitely supporting cushion of existence itself. The fear of the fall is 1,000 times worse than the fall itself. The fall is freedom. Feel the tension in your own jaw melt entirely away. Let your teeth unclench. Let your tongue rest heavily, placidly in your mouth, no longer ready to form a defense or an argument. Let the muscles in your throat soften. You do not need to hold on to your thoughts, your worries, or your narrative anymore. You are supported utterly and completely. The bed holds you. The room shelters you. The darkness is a gentle, unjudgmental blanket. Let go of the branch. Let go of the desperate effort. Let go of the final, residual fear of falling into true, restorative rest. The ultimate truth of your life is found not in the exhausting effort of gripping, but in the profound, restful freedom of release. Just as the hanging man's hands were useless to him, your striving, planning, anxious mind is now utterly useless to the process of sleep. It is time to trust the simple, ancient gravity of deep rest to pull you down, gently, safely, away from the 1,000-foot drop of the day's anxiety and effort. The falling is the final act of trust, the ultimate answer to the koan. Fall, rest, be free. Impermanence, the gentle teacher. This too shall pass. We continue to move deeper into the night, guided now by the profound and comforting wisdom of anicca, or impermanence. This concept is recognized as the third essential pillar of Buddhist insight, following the recognition of suffering and the analysis of non-self. It is perhaps the most gentle of teachers, for it whispers the undeniable truth that everything, every feeling, every difficult situation, every moment of ecstatic joy, and every moment of searing pain will change. This ever-present, fluid truth is the ultimate foundation of both the trust we practiced earlier and the essential act of letting go. When we are consumed by worry, our mind operates under the terrible, exhausting illusion that our current suffering is a fixed, solid, and permanent structure. We grip onto anxiety as if it were an unmoving, eternal state, a heavy monument to our fear. And this very clinging, this desperate belief in its solidity, is precisely what makes the anxiety feel so unbearable and endless. But impermanence, the quiet truth of the universe, tells us, this too shall pass. The king's search for balance. Imagine a great ancient palace in the heart of India, many centuries ago. Within its magnificent, echoing walls lived a powerful and formidable king. This king was intelligent, physically strong, and generally benevolent, yet his personal life was a violent, exhausting swing between emotional extremes. When he won a great victory or achieved a massive success, he was instantly consumed by arrogant joy and pride, a euphoria that often caused him to make rash, overconfident decisions that harmed his long-term interests. Conversely, when he suffered a setback, a sudden crop failure, a minor military defeat, or a personal slight, he would sink into such a deep, paralyzing depression that he was entirely unable to function, consumed by despair. The king realized, with a moment of critical self-awareness, that his severe lack of emotional balance was fundamentally hindering his ability to rule wisely and consistently. He was captive to the moment's emotional charge. He called together his wisest men, his most revered philosophers, and his most eloquent poets. I seek a single
sentence, the king declared, his voice ringing with urgency. A phrase so profoundly true, so universally applicable, that it can serve as a shield against both the arrogance of great joy and the paralysis of deepest sorrow. I want a sentence that, when I read it in my happiest, most triumphant moment, instantly reminds me to be humble and cautious, and when I read it in my darkest, most crushing hour, gives me immediate, unshakable hope. Go now, and return only when you have found this perfect sentence, this single distillation of eternal wisdom. The scholars dispersed, their minds consumed by the monumental task. They searched through every available text, every sacred poem, every ancient teaching, from the oldest Vedic scrolls to the newest philosophical treatises of the era. Months passed, then an entire year. Finally, the chief sage, an elderly man whose eyes held the quiet, vast knowing of 1,000 witnessed sunsets, returned alone to the king. The sage bowed low and silently handed the king a small, simple, unadorned gold ring. Engraved subtly on the inside of the ring, in tiny script where only the wearer could see it, was the ultimate truth the king sought. The king looked first at the ring, then back at the sage, a profound question mark hanging in his eyes. The sage simply said, "Wear it always, Majesty. You must read it only when you have reached the absolute, overwhelming peak of elation, or the absolute, crushing nadir of despair. Never before, never after." The test of triumph and tragedy. Soon after this exchange, the king won a brilliant, decisive battle, conquering a rival kingdom and expanding his realm to its furthest, most glorious borders. The celebrations were magnificent, lasting for weeks. He stood on his central balcony overlooking the teeming city, the roar of the crowds deafening, his heart swelling with an almost unbearable pride and self-congratulation. In that precise, overwhelming moment of self-importance, he felt himself becoming dangerously arrogant, forgetting his humble origins, ready to make a rash, prideful proclamation that could lead to future ruin. Suddenly, the sage's instruction flashed through his memory. He carefully slipped the gold ring from his finger and turned it over. In the firelight and the dazzling torchlight of the victory parade, he focused his gaze and read the simple, devastatingly honest engraving. The sentence that brought him instantly back to earth, calming his swelling pride and infusing him with quiet humility, was this: "This too shall pass." The king's joy instantly deepened and matured, transforming from a sharp, dangerous pride into a gentle, flowing gratitude for the moment. He knew that the victory was impermanent and therefore precious and temporary. He ruled with balance and compassion that day, his ego successfully subdued by the truth of change. Later that year, tragedy struck the kingdom. A terrible plague swept through the land, taking many, many lives, including his beloved queen, the light of his life. The king was utterly shattered. He retired to his darkest, most remote chamber, refusing to eat or speak, sunk into a despair so black and consuming, he felt he could not possibly go on. The suffering felt absolute, total, and eternal, a fixed, unchanging reality of pain. In the very depths of his despair, his hand, shaking with grief, brushed against the simple gold ring. He slipped it off, and with tear-filled eyes forced himself to read the sentence again. "This too shall pass." And at that precise moment, a quiet, subtle wave of peace washed over him. He realized that the sorrow, the crushing pain, was not a permanent, unmoving structure built into the core of his heart, but merely a cloud passing through the vast, eternal sky of his consciousness. The grief was real, it was undeniably painful, but it was not static. It was moving, dissolving, and changing.
The knowledge that this too shall pass did not magically erase his profound grief, but it gave him the essential trust that a new, different dawn would eventually and inevitably arrive. It was the ultimate act of letting go of the cruel delusion that suffering is the final, unchangeable reality of one's existence. The comforting flow of anicca. This is the great, comforting, liberating truth of impermanence. It is the core existential reason we can let go, because nothing we hold on to, neither joy nor pain, is ever truly static or solid. It is all flowing, changing, dissolving, and rearranging itself in the continuous current of life. The effort to fix or hold any part of that flow is what causes the suffering. As you lie here now, feel the sensation of your body on the mattress. Even this precise feeling is not the same as it was 10 minutes ago. Your muscles are relaxing further. The breath in your lungs is changing its pattern, shifting from shallow to deep. Your thoughts are softening and slowing their frantic pace. You are not a fixed object. You are a continuous process. If you are carrying a difficult emotion right now, a flicker of residual anxiety, a residue of irritation from an afternoon conversation, a spike of worry about a future event, do not fight it. Fighting it is like trying to hold on to a fistful of river water. The effort only causes the water to escape faster, and you are left completely exhausted and empty-handed. Instead, look at the emotion with the quiet, detached wisdom of the farmer or the balance of the king. Acknowledge it gently, without judgment. Hello, anxiety. I see you are here. Welcome, sorrow. I recognize your presence. And then, whisper the ancient ultimate truth to it. This too shall pass. Trust this process of natural decay and flow. Trust that the feeling has its own natural lifespan, its own internal clock. You do not need to push it away violently. You do not need to analyze it to death or build a fortress against it. You just need to create the mental space for it to move like a cloud crossing.
The silent moon. The king's ring is a constant physical reminder that the effort to grip tightly to either joy or suffering is always a form of resistance to reality. The deepest, most enduring freedom is found when we fundamentally release the need for things to be fixed. Fixed permanently as good or fixed permanently as bad. The labels are the chains. Let your consciousness tonight become like the vast, unchanging, observing sky, which simply observes the clouds of feeling and thought drifting through it. The sky itself does not change its nature when a torrential storm passes, nor when a moment of brilliant sunshine appears. It is always just the sky, pure and boundless. Let go of the story attached to your feelings. Let go of the belief that this moment of difficulty, this moment of restlessness, will last forever. It won't. This too shall pass. Find your anchor in this quiet, profound certainty of change, and let the gentle current of impermanence carry you toward an effortless, deep rest. The wisdom of not knowing, emptying the cup. We now settle into the profound and restorative practice of beginner's mind, or shoshin. This state of innocence is the ultimate final act of trust, because it requires us to let go of our most persistent, compulsive, and exhausting burden, the absolute need to already know everything. The restless, anxious mind constantly demands absolute certainty. It wants a complete, finalized map of tomorrow's events, a definitive, 100% guaranteed answer to every problem, and a clear, labeled, and categorized understanding of every experience, every interaction, and every potential danger. This fierce insistence on knowing, on having every detail fixed and filed, is what relentlessly keeps us awake, turning over countless possibilities and contingencies in the dark, desperately trying to force complexity into simple, manageable, predictable boxes. The friction generated by this effort is the sound of sleeplessness itself.
But the Zen master knows and teaches that the ultimate, most liberating wisdom is found not in having all the answers, but in resting perfectly, openly, in the state of not knowing. This state is not ignorance. It is the highest form of intellectual surrender. Non-in and the overflowing teacup. We are reminded now of the famous starkly visual story of non-in and the teacup. In ancient Japan, a learned and highly respected professor, renowned throughout the country for his vast, almost encyclopedic knowledge of history, philosophy, and religious text, came to visit the Zen master non-in. His mind was not merely a library, it was a densely packed, overcrowded archive of facts, theories, concepts, and rigid opinions. The professor was eager to learn from the master about the true essence of Zen, but he came not with a quiet, open, seeking heart. Instead, he arrived with a desperate, underlying need to prove his own immense intellectual worth. He sought confirmation,
Transformation. Non-in received him kindly and, as was customary, invited him to sit for the graceful, slow ritual of tea. The master began the meticulous preparation, pouring water and steeping the aromatic leaves with an air of immense, focused concentration and quiet simplicity. The professor, meanwhile, could not keep silent. His mind was too full, too demanding of external validation. As non-in quietly prepared the tea, the professor launched into a long, rambling, self-referential discourse. He meticulously explained his own sophisticated understanding of Zen principles. He quoted ancient masters from memory. He argued points of doctrine he had read about. He used complex, specialized terminology. He was so utterly preoccupied with showing off the contents of his own mind that he was entirely closed to receiving any new, fresh wisdom. His cup was already full of his own stale ideas. When the tea was finally ready, non-in picked up the pot. He began to pour the dark, fragrant, newly steeped liquid into the professor's waiting teacup. He poured slowly, deliberately, precisely, as if the entire universe were contained and unfolding in the delicate stream of tea. The tea rose in the cup, steadily approaching the brim. The professor, mid-sentence, paused in his monologue, his attention finally caught by the unexpected visual of the filling cup. The tea reached the very edge of the cup, but non-in did not stop pouring. The professor watched, stunned, into silence, as the rich, dark liquid overflowed the cup, spilled onto the saucer, and began running down the beautiful silk of the master's robes and onto the delicate tatami mat. "Master!" the professor finally shouted, jumping up in astonishment and physical agitation. "It is overflowing. The cup is full. No more will go in." Non-in stopped pouring instantly, placing the teapot gently back onto the table without a flicker of haste or anxiety. He looked at the agitated professor with quiet, penetrating eyes. Then he spoke, his voice soft but profoundly firm. "You are this cup," non-in said simply. "You are too full of your own opinions, your own ideas, your own knowledge. You have come to me seeking truth, but you bring no space to receive it. If you do not first sincerely empty your cup, how can you expect to taste the fresh, new tea of Zen?" The overflowing mind. Let that image sink deep into your being. The frantic energy of the day, the spinning thoughts, the endless self-criticism that keeps you from rest. They are the old, stale, lukewarm tea you are trying desperately to cram into an already overflowing cup. This story provides the perfect, visceral lesson in letting go of the most stubborn mental attachment of all,
the attachment to your own intellect and your own fixed, rigid understanding of how things are and how they ought to be. The mind loves to be full. It feels safe, secure, and potent when it has an explanation, a category, or a definitive label for everything it encounters. But a full mind has absolutely no room for the fresh, living, unpredictable moment. It has no room for the unexpected beauty and possibility of life. Nor does it have room for the quiet, empty, spacious presence that is the only gateway to deep, restorative sleep. It mistakes complexity for competence. Tonight, you are not here to gain more knowledge, information, or answers. You are here to practice the radical act of emptying the cup. This means consciously letting go of the need to be the expert, the chief planner, or the supreme commander of your own life, if only for these few precious hours of darkness. Let go of definitively knowing what tomorrow will bring. Trust that when tomorrow arrives, you will be exactly the person you need to be, alert and capable to meet it. Let go of definitively knowing why something painful happened in the past. Trust that the understanding and integration you need will reveal itself when the time is organically right, not when you try to force the analysis. Let go of definitively knowing how long it will take to fall asleep. This is the greatest, final, and most self-defeating effort of the restless mind, trying to calculate and control the very moment of surrender, returning to beginner's mind. Instead, return to the simple, radical state of beginner's mind, or Shoshin. A beginner's mind is open, soft, vulnerable, and exquisitely curious. It doesn't judge. It doesn't categorize. It simply notices the raw data of the moment. Feel your breath. Not the intellectual idea of your breath, but the actual, raw, physical movement of air. How does the air feel? Temperature, moisture, as it enters your nostrils. Where does it settle in your body? Notice it as if you had never encountered the mysterious, life-sustaining act of breathing before. This is the immediate practice of Shoshin. Feel the weight of your head on the pillow. Do not instantly label it pillow or soft or comfortable. Just feel the specific, unique pressure, the temperature, the texture, the warmth of this exact moment. It is a completely new sensation. This is the wisdom of not knowing. When a thought arises, and thoughts will arise incessantly, like bubbles in the newly emptied teacup, do not engage with it. Do not analyze it. Do not judge it as a failure. Do not chase it down the rabbit hole of worry. Simply label it gently and neutrally. Ah, a thought about work, a thought about a friend, a thought about an old memory. And then, like a child watching a cloud drift by in the vast, open sky, you simply let it pass without consequence, gently returning your attention to the emptiness of the cup, to the quiet, simple awareness of the breath. The greatest security we can find is not in the illusion of certainty, but in the profound, tested trust that we are resilient enough to handle the unknown. It is the deep, fundamental trust that the river will flow exactly where it must, even if you do not know the bends and hazards that lie ahead. Empty your cup now. Let the old, stale thoughts flow out over the rim, onto the floor, and dissolve into the darkness. Give yourself permission to be a complete novice in the art of existence, a student of the current moment. Let your mind be like a fresh, empty bowl, ready to receive the simplest, most nourishing, most unconditional gift the universe can offer, the stillness of the present moment, and the profound, restorative gift of rest. In the emptiness of the cup, you find everything. Sada, faith in the friendly universe. We deepen our surrender now by examining the true nature of trust in the Buddhist path, a concept known as saddha. This term is often translated as faith, but it is fundamentally different from blind belief in a supernatural or capricious being. Rather, saddha is a profound, rational confidence in the goodness, reliability, and inherent order of the cosmos. A confidence we might call faith in the friendly universe. This foundational trust is not something invented. It is built squarely upon the foundation of the Dharma, the unshakable, eternal laws of nature and morality. It is the simple, observable confidence that if you plant a seed in fertile ground, it will grow. If you consistently follow the path of compassion, your heart will naturally soften and expand. And if you stop rowing with frantic effort, the current will still carry you to the ocean. The universe is reliable in its operations. Our confusion arises from our attempts to contradict those operations. The rhythm of the mountain monastery. Imagine for a moment the measured, deliberate rhythm of a great, secluded mountain monastery deep in the high, silent peaks. It is a place of absolute quiet, a sanctuary where the hours are measured not by the anxious tick of mechanical clocks, but only by the slow, majestic movement of the sun across the sky and the deep, resonant sound of the great bronze bell. In the midst of this profound stillness, there is a deep, palpable sense of security. The monks and nuns who live here have voluntarily let go of the world's fragmented, frantic demands, its endless grasping and chasing. In return for this release, they have gained an unshakable trust in the simple, perfect sufficiency of the present moment. They trust the process. The rhythm of their day is not dictated by arbitrary schedules, but by the natural, supporting needs of their practice. The great bell sounds its deep, reverberating tone just before dawn. Its sound is not a harsh alarm meant to shock them awake. It is a gentle, yet forceful invitation. It is the sound of the universe declaring, "It is time to awaken to this moment." The monks and nuns rise with a deep, quiet confidence rooted in this awareness. They do not fret about the day's precise agenda. They do not worry about the specific details of what they will eat or what challenging question the master will ask of them during the morning lesson. They implicitly trust the routine, because the routine itself is an explicit, reliable expression of the Dharma, simple, steady, and perfectly designed to support their awakening and their movement toward peace. They begin with walking meditation. They walk slowly, their eyes cast softly down, noticing the earth beneath their feet. Trust is in every single step. They are not striving to urgently get somewhere else, to cross a finish line, or to defeat the space between them and the next tree. They are simply trusting the ground to be there to meet their foot, trusting their legs to hold them upright, trusting that the destination is not a point in the future, but is found inherently in the path itself. When they sit in the zendo, the meditation hall, they are practicing the purest, most exposed form of trust. They close their eyes and let go of the external world of sight and intellectual concept. They do not strive to achieve a special, blissful, or empty state. They simply sit, watching the gentle flow of the breath, trusting its reliability. If a painful, persistent thought arises, they do not fight it. They trust the thought, as part of the mind's flow, to be subject to the law of impermanence. They breathe, observe, and whisper the ancient truth, "This too shall pass." If the leg falls asleep and the pain becomes intense, demanding immediate escape, they do not jump up immediately in panic. They trust their body's inherent capacity to hold the strong discomfort, knowing that the sensation of pain is simply a powerful collection of nervous signals that changes moment by moment, never fixed. This too shall pass. The laws of the friendly universe. This is the essence of faith in the friendly universe. It is the profound confidence that beneath the surface chaos, the personal drama, and the world's perceived randomness, there is an underlying structure of pure potential, inherent goodness, and absolute reliability. It is the knowledge that the water will nourish the rice, the sun will faithfully rise, and the diligent practice of stillness will always bring about peace, just as gravity always works. Think of the monastery kitchen, the khaten. The cook, a master of mindful simplicity, does not spend his morning worrying about how the water will boil, or how the flame will burn, or if the oxygen will be sufficient. He has a simple, steady, working trust in the immutable laws of physics and chemistry. He simply prepares the rice with attention, patience, and compassion, and the universe, the Dharma, takes care of the rest, ensuring the proper transformation of energy and matter. We often forget that this same reliability, this same set of profound observable laws, governs our mental and emotional life just as surely as it governs the boiling point of water. If you choose to let go of a harsh judgment about yourself, your mind will naturally and inevitably feel lighter. This is cause and effect. If you choose to breathe deeply and slowly, initiating a full exhale, your parasympathetic nervous system will naturally calm and restore. This is trusting the body's wisdom. If you choose to let go of the effort to control the future, your body and mind will naturally sink into rest. This is trusting the flow. This is not a mystical process. This is the Dharma. It is the friendly universe providing the support you need, but it requires one crucial step from you. You must first release your grip on the illusion of self-sufficiency and solitary control. The master cannot carry the student's basket, but the ground will carry the student. The final assurance of rest. As you lie here now, let the sounds of your surroundings, the distant traffic, the creaking of the house, the murmur of the air conditioning, become like the distant, gentle ringing of the monastery bell. They are not jarring interruptions demanding your attention. They are simply impartial parts of the moment, confirming that the world is proceeding perfectly, reliably, and without the need for your personal, anxious oversight. The universe has the situation entirely under control. Let your heart beat with a quiet, deep confidence. Trust its steady strength. Trust its ancient knowledge. Let your mind rest, trusting that even the most frantic, looping thoughts are just clouds passing through the vast, open sky, and that the clear, untouched sky of your true, peaceful nature remains eternally beneath them. You have done enough today. The universe is not demanding that you solve the great puzzle of existence, master every detail, or overcome every challenge tonight. It is only asking you to trust that you are safe, that you are held by the unwavering order of the cosmos, and that the simple act of letting go, the final surrender of effort, is the greatest act of spiritual work you can perform in this moment. Sink deeper now into the supporting mattress. Feel the stability of the foundation beneath you. It is solid. It is reliable. This is the friendly universe upholding you, moment after moment, requiring nothing of you but your complete, gentle surrender to the present. The law of the Dharma supports your rest. Rest in this profound confidence. You are exactly where you need to be. You are safe. the arrow of non-aversion, dropping the weapon. As we drift further, settling deeper into the quiet sanctuary of the night, we turn our attention to one of the most practical, profound, and immediately applicable teachings on the art of letting go: the parable of the two arrows. This ancient teaching shows us with chilling clarity exactly how we inflict unnecessary, self-compounded suffering upon ourselves by resisting what already is, and how the simple, courageous act of trusting the present reality is the key to deep, immediate peace, even in the midst of discomfort. The Buddha, known for his ability to translate complex truths into simple, relatable images, once taught a student about the fundamental nature of pain and suffering. He asked the student to imagine a common yet powerful image of suffering: a person being shot with an arrow. When a person is struck by an arrow, the Buddha asked gently, allowing the image to settle, "Is that pain?" "Yes, Master," the student immediately replied. "The pain is direct, immediate, and intense." The Buddha then asked the crucial, pivotal question: "Now, what if that person were immediately struck by a second arrow in the very same wounded spot? Would that pain be greater?" "Of course, Master," the student said, now wincing and shaking his head at the very thought. "The pain would be compounded, unbearable, and far more agonizing." The Buddha then explained the absolute, liberating truth. The first arrow is the pain that is unavoidable. It is the simple, raw pain of life, the physical illness, the loss of a loved one, the failure of a venture, the disappointment in a relationship, the unexpected feeling of anxiety that arises unbidden. This first arrow is simply the nature of existence, the simple truth of the way things unfold, according to the laws of cause and effect. He paused, letting the weight of unavoidable pain rest between them. Then his voice grew soft, focusing on the optional suffering. "The second arrow, my student, is the arrow that we shoot into ourselves. This is the arrow of reaction, of resistance, of aversion, and of judgment. It is the destructive mental and emotional commentary we add to the initial, unavoidable pain. The second arrow is the cascade of thoughts that follows the initial pain. Why did this happen to me? I shouldn't feel this way. I must fix this immediately. I'm a failure because I'm feeling this." It is the refusal to accept the reality of the first moment. The unnecessary wound. When you feel a physical ache or soreness in your body tonight, the first arrow is the ache itself, the simple sensory data. The second arrow is the fear that the ache means something terrible, the anger that it is interrupting your rest, or the self-pity that you are experiencing it at all. The ache is a fact. The judgment is a choice. And most relevantly for this moment of rest, when you cannot sleep. The first arrow is the simple, unavoidable, neutral state of wakefulness. The second arrow, the one that truly wounds, truly prevents rest, and truly causes suffering, is the fury, the intense frustration, the desperate, grinding, striving to force the mind to be quiet. I need to sleep now. I can't believe I'm awake again. This is going to absolutely ruin tomorrow. I'll never be functional. This parable, in its powerful simplicity, is the essence of letting go of resistance, the core practice of non-aversion. The first arrow, the initial experience of life's difficulty, is often beyond our control, a natural consequence of existence. But the second arrow, the mental and emotional suffering, is entirely optional. It is a self-inflicted wound. The true act of trust, the profound act of letting go, is learning to simply accept them. First arrow, when it lands, without immediately reaching for and shooting the second. It is the quiet, ultimate statement of surrender. This is what is happening right now, and I will not fight it. Practicing non-aversion in the body. As you lie there now, bring your quiet, gentle attention to the physical sensation of your body. Perhaps there is a slight tension in your neck, a warmth in your chest, a cool spot on your skin, or a persistent restlessness in your legs. These are all first arrows. They are simply physical, neutral facts of the moment. They are not mistakes. They are just data. Do not shoot the second arrow. Do not think, I hate this tension. I should be completely relaxed by now. This is wrong. Instead, practice non-aversion. Gently, quietly, turn your awareness toward the sensation, exactly as it is, without trying to change it. Gently, quietly, say to the sensation, "Hello, tension. I see you are here. You are part of this moment, and I will not run from you or condemn you." By turning toward the discomfort with simple, non-judgmental awareness, you instantly strip the second arrow of its power. You are letting go of the resistance, which is the very fuel for anxiety and sleeplessness. You are trusting the law of impermanence, the trust that simply allowing the sensation to be present will allow it to naturally soften, change, dissolve, and pass, all without your exhausting interference. Imagine you are standing firmly on a vast, quiet beach. A powerful wave, the first arrow of pain or disappointment, begins to wash over your feet. If you panic and fight the water, if you desperately try to keep your feet dry against the current, you will stumble, become unbalanced, and fall violently. The effort of resistance makes the experience chaotic, violent, and painful. But if you practice the trust of non-aversion, you simply plant your feet firmly into the sand, allowing the water to rush around your ankles, and let the wave pull back according to the law of the tide. You remain centered, simply allowing the powerful, changing force of life to pass through you without entanglement or catastrophic reaction. The deep peace that the Zen masters and the wisest sages discover is not the peace of a life without first arrows. That life does not exist. It is the profound, quiet peace of a life lived without the self-inflicted suffering of shooting the second arrow, dropping the weapon of judgment. Let this gentle, liberating teaching guide your final conscious moments before sleep. If a disturbing memory arises from the day, acknowledge it. Feel the momentary sting or echo of emotion, first arrow, and then consciously let go of the need to judge it, analyze it, or punish yourself for it, dropping the second arrow. If a sudden noise from outside interrupts the silence, hear the sound. Feel the momentary jump of your nervous system, first arrow, and immediately let go of the frustration or irritation that follows, dropping the second arrow.
If your mind starts making frantic plans for tomorrow, notice the planning impulse, first arrow, and consciously refuse to attach fear or urgency to the outcome, dropping the second arrow. Every moment, every single breath presents you with a simple yet profound choice: to shoot the second arrow of resistance and aversion, or to trust the present reality with openness and simple, non-judgmental awareness. Choose the path of non-aversion. Choose the gentle path of the quiet mind.
Feel the profound, immediate relief that comes from simply dropping the weapon you hold against yourself. There is nothing left to fight tonight. There is only the safe, warm, supportive space of your bed and the quiet, steady rhythm of your breath. Let go of the struggle. Drop the second arrow. Allow yourself to be perfectly, fully, just as you are, right now. Awake, resting, or somewhere in between. Trust the inherent safety of this profound acceptance. Part 9. The stillness beneath the storm, becoming the mountain. We have practiced putting down the burden of judgment, letting go of the desperate oars of control, emptying the cup of rigid expectation, and dropping the second arrow of self-inflicted resistance. Now, in this final act of awareness, we integrate these teachings into a unified, contemplative state, the profound practice of finding the unmoving mind beneath the storm of thoughts. This is the ultimate, final act of letting go, the complete release of the attachment to the identity that desperately needs a complex, ongoing storyline to feel real. Imagine yourself now not as the small, fragile boat desperately clinging to the river, but as the great, ancient mountain itself. Your deepest identity, your essential inner stillness, is the solid, granite foundation of the mountain, massive, unmoving, and utterly indifferent to the turbulent weather that sweeps across its peaks. This stone core is your true, unchangeable nature, the space of pure awareness. The weather of the mind. The weather represents the endlessly changing conditions of your external life, the sensations in your body, and the constant flickering activity of your mind. Look up at the sky above your mountain. You see the clouds of worry and anxiety moving rapidly across the peak. They are dark, dense, and momentarily block the sunlight of peace. They represent the day's accumulated stress and the mind's anxious habit of catastrophizing. But the mountain does not move an inch. It does not try to push the clouds away with effort. It simply allows them to pass. It trusts the vastness and the infinite capacity of the sky to contain them and the wind to dissolve them. The mountain understands that the clouds are passing, while it is permanent. Next, a powerful, fierce wind begins to blow. The sound of irritation, frustration, and anger at external events or circumstances beyond your control. The wind howls, shaking the trees and causing small rock slides on the slopes. The small, superficial branches of your personality break and fall away. But the wind cannot move the mountain. The mountain does not meet the wind with resistance. It simply stands immovable in its way, completely centered, letting the force of the wind dissipate harmlessly around its unshakable mass. The mountain allows the wind to be exactly what it is, recognizing that its own nature is not defined by the forces that act upon it. Then, a sudden warm golden burst of sunlight breaks through the clouds, a moment of unexpected joy, relief, or physical comfort. The flowers on the slopes bloom brightly. A few butterflies flutter past, representing fleeting sensory pleasure. But the mountain does not leap for joy. It does not desperately clutch or cling to the warmth. It understands that this too is a fleeting, transient condition. It lets go of the joy, simply appreciating the moment while knowing that the sun will eventually set and the warmth will inevitably change. It maintains a perfect emotional equilibrium, unswayed by either pleasure or pain. This is the continuous, effortless practice of the unmoving mind. It is the absolute experiential trust that your true, essential nature is not the changing weather, not the clouds, the wind, or the sun, but the bedrock ground upon which the weather occurs. Your awareness is the constant, reliable observer, independent of the phenomenon it observes. When we are caught in the grip of sleeplessness, we are trying desperately to change the weather, to stop the thoughts violently, to banish the anxiety with force, to compel the body to feel the joy of relaxation. But this effort only creates more friction, more resistance, and more internal heat. It only makes the storm worse. The fundamental error is believing that you are the storm when you are actually the mountain. Tonight, in this final moment of conscious awareness, we become the mountain, anchoring to the bedrock of being. As you lie here, feel your own profound solidity. Feel the immense, settling weight of your body pressing down, down, down into the mattress. Let this total weight be your absolute anchor, the quiet, undeniable truth of your present reality. This weight is the bedrock, the physical expression of the mountain's core. When a thought, a storyline, or a memory arises, the swirling cloud or the rushing wind, do not treat it as something personal. Do not treat it as you. Treat it simply as weather, a temporary atmospheric condition passing through the vast expanse of your awareness. You can observe the thought, the feeling, the sensation, without instantly becoming entangled in its emotional drama. You can watch the narrative of worry unfold without subscribing to the identity it is desperately trying to impose on you. The angry thought does not make you an angry person. The anxious thought does not make you a failure. I am not my thoughts. I am not my anxieties. I am the mountain upon which the thoughts move. Letting go now means letting go of the storyteller. For hours, for the entire day, you have been listening to that frantic, anxious voice in your head that insists on planning, remembering, worrying, and judging. That voice is just a tiny, momentary ripple on the vast, still, deep lake of your consciousness. Give the storyteller, the worried ego, the exhausted planner, explicit permission to rest. Say to that anxious, planning mind, "Thank you for your tireless service today. Your shift is officially over. I can take it from here. I choose silence over the narrative." And taking it from here means returning your entire focus to the simplest, most fundamental sound of the entire universe, the sound of your own being, the breath. Let the quiet, steady sound of your breath become the still, unmoving air at the silent heart of the mountain. It is the life current that flows through the bedrock. Listen closely to the gentle rush of the inhale. It is the sound of life arriving, fresh, new, and without demands or questions. Listen to the soft, complete, utter release of the exhale. It is the sound of letting go, of total surrender, of quiet trust in the universe to provide the very next breath when it is precisely needed. This is the final trust in the friendly universe. Inhale and feel your belly rise gently, softly, acknowledging the air. Exhale and feel your entire body sink deeper, heavier, more securely into the core of the earth, releasing the tension of the day. This rhythm is your home. This stillness is your foundation. No thought, no worry, no feeling, no external event can shake the core of the mountain that you are. Just rest in the confidence of your own vastness. Trust the quiet, reliable process of your own existence. Let go of the compulsive need to be small, worried, or nervously defined by the passing clouds of sensation and thought. You are the stillness beneath the storm. Rest there now. The final release into rest. The gentle collapse and the great union. We have reached the quiet harbor of the night, the moment of ultimate, final release and absolute surrender. This last section of our journey is dedicated to the final, complete act of trust, the voluntary, gentle collapse of the mind into the embrace of sleep. We move from the realm of philosophical teaching into the pure, non-verbal state of being, where effort dissolves and peace reigns supreme. Think of sleep not as an absence or a void or a failure of consciousness, but as a deep, primal state of letting go, where the individual, busy consciousness temporarily merges back into the vast, reliable, friendly current of existence we discussed earlier, the source of all life and all peace. It is the moment when the small, controlling ego steps back, allowing the universal wisdom of the body to take over and restore itself fully. We are going to practice this final, gentle surrender together, moment by moment, with deep intention, patience, and complete permission. We began our journey with the two monks at the river, learning to distinguish between the self-imposed burden and the true path of release. Now, imagine yourself back on that far bank, having definitively put down the burden of the past and the heavy expectations of the future hours ago. The path beneath your feet is soft and yielding, covered in the rich, cool moss of the forest floor. You are nearing the quiet monastery, a place of peace and final rest, where the lanterns have been dimmed and only the subtle, clean scent of sandalwood incense lingers on the still night air. The gate to the sanctuary is open wide, a silent invitation. And there is absolutely no need to hurry, no need to perform, and no need to prove your worthiness to enter. You are worthy simply because you exist. As you step across this threshold, you consciously leave behind the concepts, the stories, the intellectual koans, and the burdensome parables. It is time to move beyond mere intellectual understanding into pure, embodied, sensory experience. The experience of being safe, supported, and dissolving back into the original stillness. We must now let go of the most persistent, most subtle burden of all, the self that thinks it needs to be awake, the I that believes it must monitor and control the final, irreversible process of rest. That self is exhausted, and we offer it unconditional permission to step aside. The full body surrender and dissolution. Feel the entire weight of your physical body one last time. Notice the precise point where your head rests on the pillow, the way your shoulders fold and melt into the mattress, the specific lightness or heaviness of your legs, and the warmth and comforting weight of the blanket. Allow yourself to sink without resistance, trusting the solidity beneath you. With a final, deeply conscious breath, the deepest breath you have taken all day, direct your absolute awareness to every major muscle group, giving it the clear, non-negotiable command to relax and release. Let go of your forehead and scalp. Smooth out any subtle, lingering furrows of concentration, anxiety, or worry. Let the skin feel heavy, soft, and warm, like sand settling on the beach, perfectly still. Release the effort of thinking entirely. Let go of your eyes. Feel your eyeballs settle deeply, heavily into their sockets, Stop the subtle internal effort of the eyes that always wants to see, to search, to monitor the darkness. Let them rest entirely, releasing all visual control and tension. Let go of your jaw. Release the final, powerful, lingering grip of the day's speaking, chewing, and emotional stress. Let your teeth gently part, separating slightly, and allow your tongue to rest heavily in your mouth, completely without tension or the need to form words. Let go of your throat and neck. Release the tendency to hold back words or brace against fear. Allow your head to feel fully supported by the pillow, trusting the structure beneath you completely. Let the muscles become liquid,
flowing downward into the bed. Let go of your shoulders and chest. Release the weight of all responsibility you held today, the weight of the past week, the weight of the future. Imagine the straps of the heaviest burdens falling away, dissolving into the air, carried away by the exhale. Feel the chest soften and expand, allowing the breath to flow easily, smoothly, without any effort or control from you. Let go of your back and spine. Feel each vertebra lengthen and settle, allowing your torso to be completely supported and aligned by the mattress beneath you. The burden is no longer yours to carry. The earth carries it for you. Let go of your hands and arms. Let them feel heavy, limp, lifeless, and utterly useless for any purpose. They do not need to grasp, to hold, or to reach for anything in the darkness. They are resting completely, trusting the bed beneath them to provide perfect, unconditional support. Let go of your belly. Let the muscles soften and swell gently with each inward breath, like a slow, rising tide. This is the calm, quiet center of your being, and it is now secure, warm, and deeply relaxed. Let go of your pelvis and hips. Allow your lower body to be completely, massively heavy. Feel the deep gravitational pull toward the earth, the ultimate source of stability. Let go of your legs and feet. Release any lingering restlessness, the residual desire to move or walk away. Imagine all residual energy, all electrical tension, draining out through your soles, sinking into the earth, grounding you completely. Your feet have carried you far and wide today. Now they are resting in perfect peace and immobility. You are now a body of gentle, flowing surrender, resting entirely upon the support of the earth. The dissolving of the final thought and the great union. Now, turn your final, quiet attention to your mind itself, the last fortress of the ego. The mind may still be clinging to one last persistent thought, one final item on its imaginary to-do list, or one last burning question about tomorrow. Do not fight it. Do not argue with the final thought. Do not judge it. Instead, trust the mind's natural, organic capacity for rest. The mind is designed by the universal Dharma to sleep, just as the sun is designed to set and the tide is designed to fall. Your struggle, your resistance, your effort to control is the only force preventing this natural, inevitable process.
So, for the very last time tonight, put down the oars. Let go of the desire for a specific result. Release the expectation of exactly how or when sleep should arrive. Let go of the need to calculate your time asleep. The clock is irrelevant. The present moment is all that exists. The act of trusting the body's ancient wisdom to find rest is the highest, most complete form of spiritual practice tonight. It is the moment of union with the friendly universe. Imagine you are floating in a vast, dark, warm, and infinite ocean. This is the ocean of your own consciousness. There is no shore visible, no boat to cling to, and absolutely no need to swim. The water is perfectly buoyant, supporting your entire weight effortlessly. Every movement, every moment of striving or anxiety would only disturb the perfect buoyancy that already exists. Your only task is to let go and trust the water's perfect, unconditional support. You are held by a cosmic force greater than your ability to worry. You are dissolving the boundary between yourself and the support beneath you. Sink now into the dark, silent buoyancy of your own deep rest. Feel your edges soften. Feel your sense of personal, bounded self gently dissolving into the larger space of the room, of the night, of the universe. Let go of the last piece of light behind your eyelids. Let go of the last piece of sound that registers in your ear. Let go of the name you call yourself, the history you cling to. Let go of the need to remember what you are letting go of. The body is now resting. The mind is dissolving. All is well. You are safe. This is the core truth. You are fundamentally, eternally safe. There is no danger in the darkness, only peace. You are held. You are loved by the universe. You are dissolving into the source of all peace, the unmoving center. Surrender completely, utterly, and finally to the quiet, irresistible flow of rest.